Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. Created by speakers for speakers. It's your fast track to sharper skills, bigger impact, and a smarter speaking business. Subscribe and download using the link below. And step into the spotlight.
Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association, where we share ideas to help professional speakers become better speakers, build better businesses, and form relationships with other speakers. My name is Damona Hoffman. I'm a professional speaker on the topic of communication and relationships, and I'm one of your new hosts of Speakernomics. Our guest for today, Barb Betts, is a keynote speaker, entrepreneur, and CEO with more than 20 years of experience. For Barb, relationships aren't an abstract idea. They are a measurable asset that drives revenue, influence, and impact. And that's exactly what she shares in her brand new book, The Relationship Advantage: Unlock the Life-Changing Power of Human Connection. Barb is going to open up her playbook and share the exact relationship systems and behaviors that help speakers stay booked, remembered, and referred without feeling salesy. So grab your pen, your paper, your note-taking app, whatever you got, and listen up because Barb is about to drop some gems today. Welcome to the show, Barb. Barb, you are speaking my language. Welcome to the Speakernomics podcast.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to talk with you because, girl, I see you booked and busy.
Yes.
Was there a moment when you realized that you had to build your business differently, or was it a relationship that brought the relationship advantage into focus for you?
Yeah, it's really what the answer is my previous life. My previous life as a real estate broker, entrepreneur, CEO, team leader who built multiple different streams of income in the real estate industry and was taught all the transactional ways to do business. I was taught to door knock. I got chased by a dog. I was taught to cold call. I was taught to find them, fleece them, and forget them was something we were taught in the real estate industry. And I thought, I can't do business this way. I didn't sign up for this. And so I built this strategy really in that industry. I, about 5 years ago, transitioned out into keynote speaking as a full-time career in corporate audiences outside of the real estate industry. And again, as I conversed with other speakers, I was taught, send a bunch of emails, find the event organizer, ask if they're hiring for speakers, fill out a bunch, call for speaker forms. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't do it this way. This isn't who I am. And I thought to myself, well, if building relationships in a strategic way worked inside of the real estate industry, and oh, by the way, that's what I speak about, I can't authentically get on stage from a cold call if I'm up here teaching you how to build authentic trust-based relationships. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it the way I know worked in my previous sales career. And sure enough, it's working again.
Yeah. So it's all about relationships for you. And I think it's important to actually just start by defining relationships.
Right.
So in your book, you say a relationship is real human connection grounded in authenticity, trust, and care. Why do you describe it in this way?
I describe it in that way because we in society today, like I say in many of my messaging and in my keynotes from stage, I talk about how we are in the most connected society we've ever lived in. Yet we are living in the era of the most loneliness and disconnection that we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that we're surrounded by a bunch of people. We have a bunch of contacts in our phone. We have thousands of followers on social media, but we don't have actual real human connection. And the reason I say it's bound in authenticity and trust is that I've learned through my journeys, you can't have a relationship with anyone else till you have a real relationship with yourself. And it all starts with us and who we are choosing to show up as. And so if you are not showing up authentic and human and relatable, you can't build the trust you need to get the outcome you're looking for.
100%. And in my work, I see this a lot too, as a relationship strategist. And the question that I get a lot, Barb, is I hear a lot about authenticity, but nobody's teaching it. How do I access authenticity? What is the quote, real me?
Right. And I love that because I say, how many times have you ever heard just be yourself or just be authentic? What does that even mean? And my bone to pick with that word be is that I believe the word be is very performative, right? When your kid was 5 years old, they said, I want to be Superman for Halloween. They want to be something that they're not today. So when we say just be yourself, how do you even do that? And so I help audiences by redefining what authenticity actually means. Now, this is my definition. This is how I reached the core feeling of actually showing up real and authentic, is this idea that authenticity isn't about doing anything. Authenticity is about undoing everything that isn't you. Because as adults, right, we've put on these masks our entire life. Performance, protection, showing up as the person we think we're supposed to be to achieve the outcome we're looking for, whether it's friendship, romantic relationships, corporate, relationships, sales, getting on stages. And instead of being who we really are, we're performing. And so I talk a lot about how we have to start undoing everything that isn't us. And when you start undoing everything that isn't you, you peel back to the core version of who you really are.
Yeah, it is an unlearning process. And there's so much information out there that you're being fed through a fire hose of
Right.
learning, and misinformation, that getting to the core of who you are is really a journey. And that's one thing I've really loved about your book, The Relationship Advantage, because it actually walks people through how to do this for themselves,
Right.
how to unlearn, and how to show up and I really feel like authenticity, it is in a way reflected through relationships.
Yes.
And you see who you are through the way that people relate to you and how you relate to others. So let's talk about this relationship operating system that you've outlined so beautifully in the book, The Relationship Advantage. You say that the relationship operating system has 5 core components that work together to turn your network into net worth. Show me the money, Barb.
Well,
What are they?
We could be here for 10 years if we talked about all the components. So we'll just tell everyone, go get the book if you want to read.
Of course, but I want show me the money, girl.
But I will talk about what I believe are the 2 most important components to why I coined this, the actual relationship operating system. And it's this idea that, again, we have a lot of relationships in our lives. And I believe that relationships don't break. Relationships don't end because of typically an argument, a disagreement. That's what we think they end by. Now, some do, right? We know romantic relationships sometimes end that way, and sometimes friendships end that way. But in business, typically our relationships don't break. Our relationships drift away. And the reason they drift away is because the gap between intentional communication and connection gets too far apart. And then eventually that gap gets so far apart that I don't think you care about me and you don't think I care about you anymore. And that's just simply not true. It's just we've drifted. And so I have an intentional system that I have used for 20 years in sales. And turns out it works really good in the speaking industry too, because guess what? Whether I was selling to buyers or sellers in my real estate career, whether I was speaking on real estate stages or now speaking on corporate stages, at the end of the day, I'm speaking to humans and I'm dealing with humans. And so I know this works because it gets to the core of the issue of drift. And that drift turns into that disconnection we talked about. And so the 2 core things that I teach corporate audiences and sales audiences specifically are these 2 ideas around, number 1, you need to know the level of relationship that you have with every human in your life, especially in business. So I'm not talking 100% about your friends and your family, although you could rank them. That would be a real interesting activity, right? I'm talking about specifically in your sales environment, in your lead generation environment, in your business environment. I teach this power of ranking our relationships. And I teach a simple 5-star system because we all know what a 5-star experience is and a 1-star experience is, right? Your relationships are the same way. You have a different level of connection with every human that you know. And guess what? That's okay. That's called normal. So our 5-star relationships are our advocates. They're our walking, talking billboards. They're the people that talk about you positively in rooms you're not even in. They are introducing you and recommending you to people well before you even know it. They're defending you in rooms and conversations you're not already in, right? They are your biggest advocates and supporters. I always say, think of your walking, talking billboards. They're super fans of you. Our 4 stars are our champions. They are really, really connected to us. They really, really love us. They're just that not extra level, right? They're just, some people are just designed to be advocates, and some just really love you. And if they were hit dead straight in the head and asked for you or needed something that you could help somebody with, they would definitely use your name. 3 stars are our connections. This is where most of our relationships live, right? They live in this, we're connected in some way. We have a relationship. We would recognize each other at a conference or in the grocery store, right? We know who each other is. Our 2 stars are our acquaintances. They're the friends of the friends. They're the person you see once a year, but you kind of know who they are. And then our 1 stars are our contacts. Like, it's okay to have a mailing list. It's okay to just have contacts in your phone. So I teach the strategy of ranking these relationships in whatever way feels good to you, right? You can set up your own caveats for each one, but you've got to have some kind of way to differentiate your relationships so that the second part of the formula can come into play. And the second part of the system can come into play, which is what I call the frequency formula. And the frequency formula is how often are you going to stay in contact with each group of people in your lives? So how often are those 5-star relationships need to hear from you in a connected way, in a human way? And then that's the third piece that I'll talk about of this system, which is the 5x5 method, which is kind of what I believe is the easiest way to build this into a daily habit into your life, and that every speaker can do, which is 5 messages a day to 5 people you care about 5 days a week.
And it doesn't matter what stars they have, where they're ranked.
I
Just
always say
5, 5,
bonus
5
points if you go in order, right? So when I talked about that frequency formula, when I talked about how often you stay in contact, in my world, 5 stars hear from me every 30 days, 4 stars every 60 days, 3 stars every 90 days. And honestly, I don't get much below that because I got a lot of people in that world, right? And so when you are intentionally staying in contact with those people on that cadence, you're ensuring that your best people are hearing from you the most often. So yes, bonus points if the 5x5 method is done in a systematic order, which is why I built a software around it, because it's very hard for the human brain to remember all this, which is why I say this has to be intentional. Yeah. You are not on purpose forgetting about people in your life. You simply just are not being as intentional as you need to be. And you're not intentional because you're human and you can only remember so many things on a daily basis, right? So that 5x5 method, if you do it consistently, if you do the 5 messages a day to 5 people you care about 5 days a week, it's 1,300 messages a year. And if you sent 1,300 messages a year of care, of connection, not an agenda, not asking for business, not asking for anything for you, just pouring into someone else, would your business change? The answer is absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely. And then what the magic of the whole system is that the most important relationships to you in your business, whether that be speaker friends and colleagues that potentially can refer you business, bureau agents who may be a good source of gigs for you, or even potential event planners that you've done multiple events with or might know other events surrounding that industry that might be good connections for you. If you do this formula, those super fans of you, those speakers that love you to death, those bureau agents who love you to death, they won't forget about you. And they're going to be like, you know what? She really cares about me. She checked in on my family. She checked in on my vacation. She checked in to see how the event I just had went. That's how you actually show up in a way in people's lives that ensures that you remain top of mind and they don't forget about you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it keeps us away from that feeling of sales. Because, you have a background in real estate, but you really have a background in relationships. And for a lot of people that come into speaking because they're passionate about something else, they're like, oh, but I don't want to do the sales part. When really that is inherent in how you get on. You have to sell something. You have to sell yourself. And right. I think that's the hard thing for a lot of people. When you're selling yourself, it's not a product. There's an emotional attachment to it. So I see that a lot of people get anxiety about those check-ins, right. about those touches. Yeah. What are some ways, Barb, that
it's not ways, but here's why. Here's why.
Okay, tell me
I want to get to the why you feel salesy, not the ways, the why. The reason you feel salesy. So I'm a huge proponent of every salesperson on the planet, and every speaker that was listening to this podcast is a salesperson. They need to get out of their head that they are just a speaker. You said it. If you are not promoting yourself, if you are not putting yourself in front of events or people who are connected to events, you're not going to have any business. So we are all in the business of sales. The reason that you are afraid to ask for business, the reason you're afraid to promote yourself to someone is because you don't feel like you've earned permission to. And I promise you, if you put enough deposits into someone's life, think of it like a bank account, think of it like a trust account. If you put enough deposits into someone's life, you will have no problem calling them and asking for help, calling them and reminding them, emailing them and reminding them, putting a marketing asset in front of them, because they're going to receive it as, wow, she's updating her keynotes. She's updating her message. She's telling me about all these events she just did. And they're not going to receive it as, oh, there she is in my inbox again, right? They're going to be like, wow, there she is again, because you've been pouring into them in a human way for days and weeks and months leading up to that. You've earned permission to bother them for a moment with all of your updated assets, with, you know, a new keynote you've developed, with a request being like, hey, we haven't talked in a couple of years. I'd love to be back on your stage. It's been about 4 years. You'll have no problem doing that. But I promise you, if 4 years have gone by and you have not reached out to that event planner or that past client, you have no business asking them to be on their stage.
Wow. That's so true. That's so true. And like, as we're looking at building relationships, having this framework, and you've laid it out so beautifully in your book. You give us some quick tips even for like, where do we start if we haven't been building those relationships, or we're looking to reinvigorate relationships, or looking to build new relationships. You even give some quick start tips, like the whole person check-in, the context question, the value first follow-up. Can you define what some of those mean and how we can put it into action?
Yeah. You know, I always say, number one, just rip off the Band-Aid. Don't apologize for it. Don't say, you know, I should have been in better touch with you. Just say, hey, it's been a long time. How are you? The how are you message is one of the most transformational messages you can send somebody. I was thinking about you. How are you? Find a point of connection that you had in the past. Something just happened in the universe or life, or you just attended an event that you had met them at, or you know they've spoken at before, or some point of connection. I always say use social media. Social media is one of the biggest gifts we've been given in human connection, and we don't use it properly. We sit there and just doom scroll all day long instead of looking for reasons to connect, looking for points of connection that go beyond just a double tap, a heart, a like, that actually go deep into someone's, they go deep into someone's true core of who they are, where you're showing them, I see you. So using social media, and you have someone that you haven't connected with in a while, you know they're active on social media, you know they're active on Instagram, or they're active on LinkedIn. Well, go look at their last 4 or 5 posts and find a reason to message them. Right? People are telling you everything you need to know online. We're just not listening or paying attention. And so finding points of connection, just checking in to say, how are you? Or frankly, just admitting, I miss you. We haven't connected in a while. Let's hop on Zoom. Let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's go meet for lunch. I know you're speaking at the same event as me. I'd love to grab, 20 minutes with you. Don't overthink it. Just rip the Band-Aid off, reach out and connect, because that's the only way you're going to start the ability to stay in better contact with them, is if you just rip the Band-Aid off. So I'm using social media, just checking in. How are you? This is why I'm a huge proponent of documenting information about people, learning things about people, and putting that in your CRM, which is why I built one, because one didn't exist for me. I'm such a proponent of tracking that information, favorites, college favorites, sports favorites, coffee favorites, kids' names, dogs, because these are things you can recall when you need to, when you're trying to reach out and connect. Because we're expecting that we're just going to remember everything about every human we know, and that's just impossible.
Yeah. And it does come down to something you said a moment ago, that people really love to feel seen as well. So it's not transactional. It's not just, hey, book me for this event, but it's, you talk in the book about remembering somebody's coffee order, something small like that. And I really love the value first follow-up, where it's like, I saw this thing and it made me think of you, or sending them something of value without
Yes.
expecting something in return.
Yes.
You're really playing the long game in relationship building that way.
Podcasts, books. I was just at an event and the speaker said something that reminded me of you. I just chatted with so-and-so about you, right? Those messages are great to receive when you're like, hey, I just ran into Richard at the event and he just said you just crushed, XYZ event. Congratulations. Want you to know he thinks you're a rock star. What speaker doesn't want to receive that message?
Oh,
right?
totally.
So there's so many things that we are missing. And that is why, previewing maybe a second book idea that I have in my head, which is wild because, as speakers, we write these books and we swear we're never going to write another one again because they're so exhausting. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait. And what I've learned is that as I've redefined and developed and gone deeper on my message, I've realized one of the number one things that people are so fascinated with is this 5x5 method, because it's simple, it's actionable, and it's something you can do every single day. And typically while I'm speaking, people are already thinking about 5 people in their life that are important to them that they have let drift away. So I kind of started to do some research about why don't people just reach out when they think of somebody? And so I've really started to impress upon audiences this idea of be the one to reach out first. When you think of someone, reach out. How many times a day does someone pop into your head and you wonder how they're doing? A memory came up on your social media about them. You drove by something that reminded you of them. You listened to a podcast that reminded you of them, and we don't reach out. And what's wild is University of Pittsburgh did 13 studies on this. They did 13 studies on why people don't reach out.
What is it? Tell me.
It's, I think I'm bothering them. They don't want to hear from me. I don't want to interrupt their day. That's what people think. That's why we don't reach out. If you think about it, as a child, what were you told when you wanted to talk to somebody? Don't bother them.
Don't bother me.
Don't interrupt them.
Yeah.
They're talking. Don't interrupt them. Now, I'm not saying we should interrupt people when they're talking, but you get what I'm saying. As little tiny kids, we are conditioned to not bother anybody. Again, another mask we need to take off. And so my whole concept is, especially with 2026 technology, is a text message ever bothering somebody? Do you ever get a text message and think, God, I wish she would stop bothering me? Well, I mean, there is a super stalker mode that you can go into. Okay, there is a point. But let's get back to normal.
If you send me a voice memo that's longer than 2 minutes, let me tell you.
But if I just send you a voice memo and you're on stage, you're not like, oh, she really bothered me at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. No, you're going to get to it when you get to it. You're going to get off stage. You're going to listen to my voice note and go, oh my God, Barb was thinking about me. So the results of the study. The results of the study with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people actually showed there was a dopamine shift in the person that received it. There was a feeling of care. There was a feeling of being seen. There was a feeling of, wow, someone was thinking about me. It had the complete opposite effect of what the people that were afraid to send the messages were thinking. And so if I have to leave you with one thing, is when you think about somebody, reach out. Reach out. If it's during the day and you're busy and you're doing a bunch of things, I have a little, a list going on my notepad of people I'm going to connect with later in the day. And then I just sit and I send my messages. And maybe it's going to happen the next day. Maybe it doesn't happen in the moment. The idea behind it is when you think about somebody, send a message, check in on them, send a voice note, send a video message. There's a million ways we can do it. Go on their social media, find out what they're doing in life, send them a DM, reach out first. Be the one to reach out first. 5 messages a day, do it in a strategic order, and watch your speaking business change.
That is brilliant. And it's so accessible, Barb. That's what I love about this book. And when you speak, you are just so clear on, it doesn't have to be complicated. We don't have to overcomplicate relationships. Before you go, I do want to talk about specific relationships with speakers, because, we've been talking about these relationships and how they can lead to sales with like meeting planners, meeting professionals. But, a lot of times people look at other speakers as competition. I mean, you and I both speak on relationships and communication. On the surface, we could be like, we're in competition for the same speaking opportunities. But I don't see it in that way. I'd imagine that you don't either. How can people reframe their thoughts on speaker relationships? Oh.
We have to reframe our thoughts on this. You are absolutely correct. At the end of the day, we are each other's competition. But we have to remember one pivotal thing about speaking. And this is the thing that I recognized eyes wide open when I came out of the real estate industry and started building my speaking career. I built it for 14 years just in the real estate vertical. And so when I came to market, I knew what I was doing, but everyone's like, who the heck are you? Right? So I joined some speaker communities. I got to know other speakers. And what was wild is I recognized a few things. Number one, we don't all speak for the same fee. There's events you're going to get, opportunities you're going to get that are not in your fee range. There are dates you're not going to be able to do because your calendar is already booked. There's conferences you may not want to do. You may not think you're the best fit for it. And most importantly, what every speaker on the planet needs to remember is they are not going to hire you next year, likely. Right? Most events do not put the same speaker on stage year after year. Maybe a few years from now, very common, not next year. So building these speaker relationships is a referral strategy that every speaker needs to be using. If you want consistent bookings, go build better relationships with other speakers. I actually was looking at my numbers just before we started today's recording, and we are recording literally halfway through the year. So 6 months into the year, and I have had 37 speaker referrals from other speakers, gig referrals from other speakers. Now, not all of them have panned out. In fact, probably I'd have to do the math if I look back at how many have actually converted, right? But these are even just text messages saying, hey, I told XYZ event planner about you today. Now, I track that as a referral. This is very important. I track that as a referral because someone took the time to use my name in front of another event. Now, I don't also go in and start pressuring the event planner and, find their email and start peppering them. That's not how you build relationships. But I track that as a referral because that speaker thought high enough of me to put my name in front of someone else and tell me about it, right? So building these relationships with other speakers to where they know that they like you because you're a human that stayed in good relationship with them. 2, they know what you speak on. They know what your takeaways are. They know the problems you solve. They know what fee range you're in. They know where you live in the United States. All of these things, if you're not making sure you're building the relationship deep enough with all of your speaker colleagues at this level, so that when they hear, I need a human connection speaker. I'd really love one that's a female that specializes in sales. I got a lot of speaker friends that are going to use my name immediately because I've built the relationship and they know I'm good at what I do. And they know when to think of me. So if you don't treat your speaker relationships just as you would another sales funnel, you're missing out.
Yeah. And it's so clear when starting out, we defined a relationship as a real human connection grounded in authenticity, trust, and care. It says a lot about the relationship that someone would care enough, would trust you to use your name and refer you. So wow, you just dropped a lot of gems here, Barb. This was such an enlightening interview. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you for having me. I love NSA. I love our speaker colleagues. I love this crazy world we live in. And I am always happy to share because, the one thing I will end with is I know that building relationships doesn't just transform your business, but it also transforms your life. And I'm not telling any speaker to stop doing what they're doing. If they've got SEO out there going and they've got some cold generation strategies that are working, I am always the sales speaker that will get on stage and say, don't stop doing what's working. But what can you do in your business to slowly start intentionally moving the pendulum further to repeat and referral business? Because here's what I know. Out of every business I've had, every P&L I've ever looked at in my own business and career, there is nothing more profitable than doing business through relationships. Period.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Well, it's wonderful to get to start a relationship with you, Barb. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Let's recap your next steps on building meaningful relationships as a professional speaker, according to Barb and her new book, The Relationship Advantage. Number 1, start with the relationship with yourself and unlearn the things that are pushing you away from authenticity. Number 2, rank your relationships to create a system for connections. Number 3, practice the 5x5 rule to nurture your relationships. And number 4, be the first to reach out. If you're thinking of someone right now, send that message and tell them. And while you're at it, tell us what you think of this episode. Do you like us? Do you love us? Let us know. Leave us a rating, comment, or review on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening right now. And one last hot tip, maybe you can initiate a value first follow-up to build a relationship with someone by sharing this episode with them. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. To learn more about NSA and the resources available to professional speakers, visit nsaspeaker.org. I'm your host for today, Damona Hoffman. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Speakernomics. If you want more bookings, credibility, and connections, your NSA community is waiting for you. Join NSA today. Click the link below and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and download this podcast wherever you listen.